little bracket above the window. And he pulled the gun out, and as true as God as I'm sitting here, I swear that that bastard loaded that gun in front of me, whatever he'd done. And then he turned around and he says, right, I've had enough of your bollocks, he says, no more fucking about with you. He said, you've very been asked to make a statement, and it's up to you whether you make it or not, he said. So I'm going to tell you now. You've only got one chance. He said, open your mouth. And I wouldn't open my mouth, so he whacked me on top of the head with the gun barrel, and I went, ah! And he rammed the gun right into my mouth. And then he started rattling the gun barrel around my teeth. He broke and chipped a lot of my teeth, so he did. And then he turned around and he says, me, Red Hill, I'll tell you what, playtime's over. He said, if you're going to sign a statement, blink your eye. He said, I'll tell you what, you've got to the count of three, because in the count of three I'm going to pull this fucking trigger. And he went 1, and he pulled the hammer back and he cocked it. 2, 3, and as true as God, as I'm sitting, I can still see that fucking hammer now. And it seemed like it was taking forever. And all of a sudden just hear a click. And he ripped the gun out of my mouth and he went, fucking hell, must have given me a dud bullet or something. He started fucking about with it. He said, second time, look, and he whacked me on top of the head again, and the same thing again. 1, 2, and again he pulled the trigger.
The Home Office have announced that an inquiry is to be held into allegations that 6 men were beaten up while they were in Winson Green prison. These allegations have been made by a man who was a prisoner there. During this particular time, he's made them to the Guardian newspaper.
In Winson Green, like, and water was down inside the gates. The water was down in 2 rows, like, row each side of us. As we went through that, we got hell. Sticks and boots, everything, you know. You get smashed on the head and you went down, and the boots were coming up to meet you coming down, like, you know. That was horrific. And there was 2 lines of these screws all the way along, like, you know. And it was horrific, it was. Our faces were in bits, you know. My eyes were banging out of my head, like, you know. And they were all busted. My nose was busted. My lips were all busted. You know, the whole face was smashed. The ears were bleeding. They were coming out of my ears.
All I remember, when I tried to step out of the van, the bloke behind me gave me a kick in the back. I remember going forward, and when I got up, I put my hand in my fist like that there, and I was covered in blood, and my teeth were all missing. I remember that. And the blood was running down. There were some teeth hanging down here, just hanging on with the gums. And they took us in, they put us against the wall, and then they went into a bathroom. And I remember when I went down, there was blood in the bath, and there was hair in the bath. And they stripped us off. We just had a wee vest on me. He took it off and they got into the water, and he just came in on top of us, started putting my head under the water. What I remember that was very cold. And I remember the snow was coming in. There was a broken glass there. I remember the snow coming in.
The defendants have been held for the last week behind the 10-foot thick walls of Lancaster Castle. The men were brought under heavy guard to the specially constructed semicircular dock. 21 times the charge of murder was read out to each of the 6 men accused of the killings. 21 times each of them replied not guilty. But according to Mr. Harry Skinner, who's prosecuting, all the defendants were concerned in a series of Midlands bombings in November.
The trial in many ways was, you know, was practically a foregone conclusion. As they say, an open and shut case. Here's 6 men going to James McDade's funeral, and there was explosives found in their hands, and there's 4 confessions. They were in the right place at the right time. I mean, what more do you want?
But I remember the day that the verdict was come in. Some good friends in the media told us, don't come near the court, they're all looking for you. Take our advice and stay away, and we did. And we heard it on the radio. It was actually Jimmy Young come over his radio show that got life. I blame God. And I went away from my faith for all that time. It was like a shock. And we didn't know where to turn. We just didn't know where to turn.
I mean, I remember Billy Parr standing beside me, like, you know, and Billy was going me, like, bumping me, you know, like that there, you know, and, you know, I just stood and couldn't, I mean, at the same time, okay, I just said a while ago, as regards the, knew we were going to go down, but at the same time, but when you hear it for real, it still shakes you up, you know what I mean? It was terrible, it was terrible.
Well, I'm going to tell you the honest truth. My knees were bitten together. I tried to buckle my knees against this chair because it was all brought down behind me, because my knees were knocking together. My whole body was in fright.
Didn't sink in till that night. You know. I suppose that was a really bad night. That. To make it worse, when I'm coming out of the prison in the prison van, I see my wife and brother walking past. You know, and that really hurt. You know.
And we'll never know the truth about them years in jail. They'll never tell us about what the things, you know, the things that happened to them. And it's because they love us that they don't tell us. You know, they don't want us to have to imagine the things that they went through.
My kids used to come up on a Saturday or Sunday. And I never once seen them in a school uniform. Pictures I did, but never in real life. Yeah, it was hard. Huh? Regrets it, you know, taking them to their first football game and that, you know. It's the things you miss. Huh?
My home was wrecked in Birmingham. They wrecked my home. My wife had a run with 6 of my children. My oldest girl was 16, my youngest one was 2. She had a run and she brought my family to Ireland to live. I never seen my family. They couldn't afford to come to visit me. The only one to visit me was my oldest girl, Bernadette. She was 16 years old.
When you're in prison and your family come to visit you and they're sitting over the table and they're asking you how you are and you're telling them everything is great. Everything is great. How the fuck can anything be great? You're serving 21 life sentences for nothing.
The imprisonment years are horrific. But towards the end, as I'm saying, you know, a lot of people even in the prison system, you know, came to accept that we were in here and we shouldn't have been, that the wrong people, you know.
Good evening. Tonight, after more than 16 years, justice is done. The Birmingham Six are free.
Justice! I don't think them people in there have got the intelligence nor the honesty to spell the word, never mind dispense it. They're rotten!
Paddy's still at it.
His walkers just appeared.
What?
Walker, he
He's
just
there.
walked up. I know, he just walked up there. I didn't see him before that.
He was running around shaking hands with people. There's Paddy again, God love him.
Yeah. I think Paddy was looking to fight somebody there, wasn't he? It brings it all back again, like, you know. It's not a blur anyway. You don't forget, you know, all the things that happened, like, you know, especially that day, like, you know, with so many people about, you know, supporters and all that. And that was a good day.
Oh, it was lovely, lovely to see all the people there, you know.
Great.
And I thought, where the heck have they all come from? I was quite surprised.
We waited a long time for this, but every dog has its day and we're going to have ours.
It's a bit frightening, like, you know, being out there and having to say a few words, like, in front of people, like, you know, for the first time for 16.5 years.
Justice has been done today, but it took 16 years for this justice to happen. Thank you very much.
I was buzzing for days, like, you know, but it's a day I'll never forget. 2 days I'll never forget, the day I got convicted and the day I got released.
Walked out and there was quite a crowd there, and press and all that. And we gave a press conference, and I remember getting into the limousine. But he says, "Wasn't that brilliant? Can we do that again?" Yeah, it was a good moment. Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah, it was nice to experience.
Went back and got a £25 discharge allowance, you know, and walked out through the front door, simple as that. And it's recorded, as you see. 6 of us coming out and being, what do you call it, interviewed. Most people would probably remember Paddy Hill. Others remember that we didn't forget a number of other cases, wrongly convicted and who have been released since.
There are many more people behind prison bars, wrongly convicted, not only Irish, including English people. John McGronigan is coming for appeal soon, should be released. The Tottenham 3, Bridgewater 4, and a long list of other prisoners who've been asking the same as us.
It was so good, you could have went back and done it about 4 or 5 times, you know. Yeah, I mean, that was absolutely special, as it would be. You know, you can imagine it yourself. Well, you couldn't imagine it yourself.
I could hear all the screaming and bawling and all of that. Outside, I couldn't find the door, how to get out. That was, I didn't know what to do, you know what I mean? Like, but when I walked outside, it was frightening, very, very frightening. I mean, I was surprised to see London the way it was, you know. And I couldn't get words out, because it was just that, the emotion was just took over. Just could not do it.
I remember coming out like, and the only thing I remember is the noise. To be quite honest with you, I haven't got a clue what it felt like. And I mean that. This may sound funny to people. That didn't seem real then. And even though it was real, I can replay it in my head any time of the day or night. I can see it happen like everything else that happened to me.
The police told us from the start that they knew we hadn't done it. They told us they didn't care who done it. They told us that we were selected and that they were going to frame us just to keep people in there happy. That's what it's all about. It's this.
But I still don't feel a part of it. That strangeness is still with us today. That's why we don't seem to fit in. We don't feel a part of things. There is something that is missing. And even that day there was something. Don't ask me what it is. You just don't feel a part of anything.
We were told it was going to be very hard, but nobody knows how hard it was going to be. They couldn't settle. The men just couldn't settle. They were here, there, everywhere, on and off planes. And I just felt like me couldn't understand why Richard didn't want to settle down to home life again.
It was very hard in the early days. I mean, it must have been horrible for the wife and the daughters, you know. And the way I was acting, I wasn't acting normally. And I was sitting in the bottle all the time and drinking vodka. I got out of hand totally, like, you know, drinking. It was a reaction to what had happened to the years, like, you know, it was inside.
Thank you very much. Bye now. See you.
There was times here that I was on my own. And actually, if it hadn't have been for my brother-in-laws, I think my marriage would have broke up. He was destroying himself. He really was. He wasn't eating any food. And it was drink, drink, drink. And he eventually had a breakdown. Having drank so much in so short a time destroyed his short-term memory cells. If you said to him, Richard, I just killed a man, 2 minutes later he wouldn't remember that. No matter what you tell him, he doesn't remember 2 minutes, even a minute later, doesn't remember. But his long-term memory is brilliant.
I was a different person. I wasn't the guy who walked out to get to the prison. I was the guy I changed into after I'd come out of the prison because of this drink.
I'm 72 years of age now, and how I survived all that, I do not know. All I can say is that somebody up there must have been looking after me all that time. You have to get on with your life, and I'm getting on with my life as best as I can. And I try not to look back on the things, but having said that there, I'd never believe you, because I still have nightmares about it. And I woke up many a night screaming and shouting, and especially so about the Winson Green beatings. And that will never leave me. I mean, don't forget, we didn't get any counselling or anything. Got nothing, just left in the street with a few bob from the prison. But it was very, very difficult to adjust, because prison is not so much about a physical thing, it's a psychological thing.
When we were released in 91, I had grandchildren as old as my own kids were when we went in. Myself, Paddy Hill and Jerry Hunter were in their 20s, all 29 years of age when we went in. We were 46 when we came out. Our oldest daughter was 8, the son was 3. So 4 children between the ages of 3 and 8 when we went in, you know. You can never give anyone back those years, those 16 years. They're formative years as well, you know. I find now, even with the son, the daughters, that there isn't a bonding now that would have been.
I wouldn't have coped unless I did have the children, you know what I mean? To me, my kids were my strength. And now, you know, so if I didn't have them, I wouldn't know where I'd have done, really.
They'd all grown up together, so it was like they all fitted together. And when I came into the situation, it seemed to be causing a lot of problems. You know, everyone wanted a piece of you, as it were, and you weren't able to devote enough time to everyone, and they were, you know.
I think that was the same with all the family, you know, with all the men's families, you know what I mean? Because when you think the kids, I mean, they weren't kids, they were kids when they went in. So all of a sudden their dad is out. So they all want to be with him all at once.
When we did get out, it was a different world. Being on your own for 16 years and then coping with a family, not only a family, a grown-up family, plus everything was so fast. It's hard to explain, but prison is so relaxed. I think it took about 2 years to really get back into the system, get back into the way of life. Though you didn't realise it at the time, you know. But hopefully, all right now, I hope. Me and the wife split up. She went to Birmingham and I stayed here in London. It's a bit hard the first year, but things worked out. We're good friends now. Hopefully it continued like that. It was hard, but we were apart for 16 years, so that made it a lot easier, you know. I think we only lived together 2 months when I got out. She couldn't stand me. But yeah, it was hard, but not that hard, as I say, because we were already separated. You know. If it would have just been out of the blue, it would have been living together all that time. Yeah, it would have been a lot harder.
A lot of people think that that's the old proverbial fairy tale end and everybody kisses and makes up and goes away and lives happily ever after. Bullshit. Doesn't work that way. Nothing to miscarriage of justice thing, it doesn't. I suppose there's a number of things that you'd have to consider. One of the things is ourselves. You don't think about the outside world when you're in there. It ceases to exist. I got 50 grand off the government 3 weeks or something after I came out. And we hadn't got a clue about money. And I was taking my grandkids and what have you out, buying them this, that and the other. And in actual fact, I was trying to buy love and affection. Doesn't work, believe me. All the money in the world, as I say, can't buy you happiness. At the present moment, I live on £75 a week income support. And I have been living like that for a number of years. Because we couldn't claim any benefits or anything when we came out. So any money that we had, like, you know, I don't have to sit here and tell you I spent the 50 grand. I'd be a liar. I didn't spend it. I squandered it. I didn't have any idea about money. None of us did.
Come on, Gert. Come on, Gert. Here, Gert. I bought a new house in Derry. It was only a house. It was never a home. It's very sad to say. It's a beautiful place and all it was. But I was well lived in a tent because I was just as happy in the tent. My oldest 2 girls were brilliant towards me. My son was pretty decent. But the other 4 were 4 strangers to me, my other 4 girls. I didn't know them from Adam. The whole life was too fast for me, even in Derry, you know what I mean? And people in Derry would kill me with kindness. I couldn't go into a public house, never one drink. Somebody would buy me a drink, and I found myself in 10 companies and things like that. And I lived through the battle. And I lived and lived through the battle. And I was drinking an average between 18 to 24 Budweisers a day with 2 bottles of vodka. I went out with great plans to get back and go back with my family, but it was the family in my mind, it wasn't the family I came out to.
It's took years for him to get where he is today. He's been in 5 different hospitals, but it looks as though now we're finally getting it sorted, you know. And when the grandchildren comes over, he loves it. The bad old days are gone. I know we'll never get them days back. But I could say the last 3 years, it's really got a lot better. We can sit and talk now, where before we couldn't, nothing to talk about. And we can laugh and joke, which I never thought I would ever see again.
And once that I was able to go out and drink, even with 2 pints of Guinness, and walk out of the pub again, I knew I'd beaten it. I had. And mind you, it took a long, long time. It was a long time coming, that was like, you know.
It's left my dad a very different person. He's still our dad. And to us, he will never be anything else, only our dad. But I just find it very sad that he served all that time and it's ended up like this for him. You look at him and he's still the same man, and he looks the same, only he looks older, obviously, but there's things that are missing for Dad. It's not the way that it should have been.
When I first came out of prison, I promised people in prison the first year of my life, and going around the country, I met so many other people, families and what have you, people who claimed they were innocent. And it became very apparent, or more apparent outside than inside, of the lack of help outside here. There's no organisation, no one you can turn to for help. So that's how Mojo came about, and it stands for the Miscarriage of Justice Organisation. And to the best of my knowledge, it's the only organisation in the country which actually is set up to try and help innocent people, or people who claim they're innocent in prison. It's only when you find out that, when you get convicted, it's only then that you find out and realise that there is no help whatsoever in this country. In fact, it's the opposite. Everything is against you.
I would love an apology, because wouldn't it be great, after all me and the other men has been through, look at the television some night and come on, or even on reading and say, the Home Office has apologised to Brendan Six, you know? And that to me would be a good deed.
I don't think any of us felt that much bitterness. Speaking for myself, I learned in prison from an early age, through hatred and bitterness, it only destroys you. The mind just doesn't seem to register, it just can't settle in a steady period. I don't know, that's because of the prison or just because I'm lazy, but I don't know. No, I always wanted to go abroad, and hopefully this year sometime I'll go, if things work out.
I met this girl in the pub. She's a Finnish girl. Her name was Pavy Level, and we got on great together. We met one another and we spoke. She's a lot younger than me, you know, and what she's, you know, just life took off. We just seemed to hit it off well, you know what I mean? And then she invited me out to Finland, and I went out to Finland, and one thing led to another. Now she's a wife.
Who is? No, we're not getting no new hens. Oh no, who says that? I don't care what Mummy says, the answer is no.
I got a little boy now.
She'll go to ups.
Marty's 7.5 years old. And he goes to school down here now, and it's a new lease of life to me. It gives me something to look forward to.
Why are you so warm and I'm freezing? Young blood,
I can go out now and I can get into a public house and have a few pints now and enjoy it. I've no call to go in there, drink bottles of vodka and drink all day and all night just to get drunk. Because I got more things else to do now. So I'd say since I met her, over the last 10 years, I've got a whole brand new life in front of me now. I'm very lucky.
We're still fighting 11 years afterwards after we come out of prison for compensation. People don't seem to realise that we're now been in a litigation fight with the British government for what, nearly 30 years. And we just like to bring it up. All of us, I think, would like to bring it to a close. I don't plan too much for the future. I remember doing that 30 years ago. I thought I had a future, and I ended up I didn't, so I just take the future as it comes, day by day, week by week, and that's all you do. I only plan for a very, very short time future. I don't have any long-term plans.
Generally speaking, I tended not to want to even think about those people. As far as I'm concerned, it's on their conscience. I've always mentioned that it's better to be in prison and innocent than in prison and guilty. In fact, I go farther than that and I'd say it's better to be in prison and innocent than outside and guilty. They've got to carry that in their conscience. Are they able to? They're responsible for it. See, I do believe in a final judgment, and you know, whatever happens in this life, we will all be judged in the next.